Princess Alexia Midgar approached Cid Kagenou with grave news about his sister, who had mysteriously failed to appear for breakfast. As they stood in the sister's now empty room, Alexia explained that no one had seen her all morning. She had sought out the girl's younger brother, expecting some level of concern. Instead, she found him utterly absorbed in the fascinating task of counting dust motes on the ceiling, leading her to believe the situation might not be so serious after all. Cid, realizing his mob-like apathy was a bit too convincing, snapped into action with a performance of shock so profound it supposedly rendered him unconscious. Alexia was not impressed. She pressed on, connecting his sister's disappearance to a recent string of missing students, and suggesting she'd been dragged into the same sinister plot. Cid, however, confidently dismissed this, explaining that his sister going AWOL was a regular, if eccentric, habit of hers. Alexia pointed to a magic ceiling collar on the floor as clear evidence of a struggle, a sign of a violent abduction. Cid, however, saw it differently. He calmly reasoned that such an item was hardly standard issue for a female student, further proof that his sister's normality was, at best, debatable. Alexia then presented another piece of evidence, a suspicious notebook. Cid took one look inside, and his carefully constructed facade of a normal boy shattered. This was something he recognized on a spiritual level. The meticulously written ancient runes, the cool-looking but functionally useless magic circles, the incantations that sounded profound but were utter gibberish. It all pointed to one horrifying truth. This was a Chuunibyou Fantasy Notebook, a sacred tome of adolescent delusion. He knew its kind intimately, for he had walked this dark path himself. Suddenly, all the evidence made perfect, embarrassing sense. The collar, the bandages, the sudden journey of self-discovery. It was all classic Chuuni behavior. Overcome with second-hand embarrassment for his sibling, Cid clutched his head in despair, much to Alexia's confusion. Composing himself, he closed the book with an air of finality. His sister was fine. He knew her type. She would simply come home when she got sick of her dramatic escapade. He was, after all, the same. With a cool, knowing smile, he bid the bewildered princess farewell. Alexia could only wonder if this strange confidence came from a deep sibling bond. For a moment she felt a pang of envy, thinking of her own strained relationship with her sister, Iris. Later, Cid relaxed by a campfire, trying to burn away the memories of his own dark past that the day had dredged up. He was about to enjoy a perfectly grilled fish, a gift from his subordinate Zeta, feeling confident that his sister's Chuuni phase was nothing to worry about. A sudden noise broke his peace. It was Delta, another of his subordinates, who came bounding out of the woods and tackled him with the force of a furry missile. She clung to him, a whirlwind of excited energy. She had hunted a jaguar, been praised by Alpha, and now demanded praise from her boss. Cid, with the weary patience of a dog owner, tried to quiet her down, reminding her it was midnight. He sat in deadpan silence as she waited expectantly. He finally offered a monotone, "Good job," which she received with ecstatic shouting.
She then proudly announced she had dug a hole, just as he'd once vaguely instructed, and deserved a head pat for it.
As a bonus, she presented her greatest find, a brilliant red gem, which she had been storing in her mouth for safekeeping. Cid could only marvel at her genius while mentally calculating the gem's market value. He retrieved the slobbery prize from her tongue. It was indeed a rare and valuable find. Delta, having performed her duties, now demanded her reward. Her eyes locked onto the grilled fish, and before Cid could explain it was a gift from Zeta, she declared it her prize. With a mighty chomp, she began to devour it. Cid sighed, accepting the inevitable as he allowed his woofie to enjoy her ill-gotten snack. The inevitable arrived in the form of Zeta, the cat girl, who appeared looking utterly betrayed. She had caught that specific mackerel for her master, not for this mangy dog. Delta, possessive of her reward, snarled back, snatching the fish away. Zeta was heartbroken. That was the most flavorful mackerel. Cid's attempt to mediate was, as always, futile. The insults flew, with Zeta calling Delta a stupid dog for plundering her gift. Delta retorted, questioning what was wrong with a reward from her boss. With a mutual cry of "Unforgivable!" they unleashed their power. Cid was sent rocketing into the night sky, calmly noting that his subordinates had once again forgotten about their master's physical safety in the heat of the moment. From his vantage point, he watched the ensuing chaos, narrated by a third party who noted the duo's destructive rivalry. Cid, however, preferred to watch from the sidelines, as it was annoying to be disturbed during an all-out fight. Delta lost track of the speedy Zeta, who had vanished into thin air. She wondered if the cat had run away. But no, Zeta reappeared behind her, announcing it was time for some disciplining. She launched a flurry of attacks. Delta dodged the onslaught. The fight was on. Zeta continued her assault with sharp projectiles. Delta managed to evade them. She frantically searched for her opponent. Cid was impressed. Zeta had even learned the Blood Queen techniques he'd taught her, turning to mist and forming blades. He mused on her nature, a first-class talent, the cleverest of the 7 shadows, able to master anything instantly. But she had a critical weakness. She got bored far too easily and never bothered to truly perfect her skills. Zeta used this to her advantage, leaving her fluffy tail as a decoy, which Delta fell for. Delta spotted the real Zeta just in time. Zeta cursed her lack of practice, admitting she was almost caught. Deciding to end things quickly, she apologized and announced she was going all out. She unleashed her finisher, 1,000 blades, showering the area in a storm of energy. Delta stood her ground against the barrage. She grunted in pain, taking the hits. Cid noted Zeta's impressive growth, but knew Delta was in real danger. Pushed to her limit, Delta let loose a powerful sonic scream. The howl staggered Zeta, whose sensitive ears couldn't handle the assault. Delta explained she was only holding back because Alpha would be angry,
but no more. If the bitch cat wanted a real fight, she would get a real rampage. Zeta looked on in horror. Delta's hand began to morph. She was going to get serious. She was going to kill her. She summoned her true weapon, a blade of immense size and power, and swung it at Zeta. The blow leveled the surrounding forest. Zeta could only marvel at the sheer idiot power behind the swing. Cid recognized the weapon with glee, the iron slab, a heap of raw iron too massive to be called a sword, wielded by the tyrant Delta. Their unsettled fight, which usually ended with Zeta getting bored or Alpha getting angry, was now threatening to destroy the entire campus. Cid watched with keen interest, wondering how this time would play out. And then, right on cue, Zeta declared she was sick of this and simply left. Delta was left screaming at the sky as her rival fled. It was, Cid sighed, the same conclusion as always. Just then he spotted movement. It was Alexia, drawn by the commotion. Cid immediately switched gears, composing a dramatic, Chuuniesque monologue for his grand entrance. Alexia, meanwhile, charged toward the source of the magical explosion, ignoring her guards' pleas to wait for reinforcements. She would not let the culprits behind the disappearances get away. They arrived in a clearing of complete devastation. Alexia knew she was on the right track. Something big had happened here. The sheer magical energy was suffocating. Every tree had been cut down. She knew someone had been here just moments ago. Finding fresh blood on the ground confirmed her suspicions. Powerful individuals had fought here, and it had to be connected to the missing students. A guard spotted a figure in the sky. Alexia looked up in shock. It was the enigmatic figure, Shadow. He looked down upon the destruction as if it were his own handiwork. He mused cryptically on the fleeting nature of human life, every bit the mysterious mastermind. Alexia demanded to know what happened, but her guards held her back. She broke free, vowing to catch the one responsible. Shadow dismissed her efforts as futile, stating that they lived in different worlds. In a flash, he was behind her, her own sword held to her throat. He spoke of light and dark, of worlds she should not meddle in. He declared that they had started moving and that it was time. Alexia desperately demanded answers. Who were they? What time? But he was already gone, leaving her to scream her questions at the empty, moonlit trees.